Good evening. Welcome to Meetings with Our Community.
President Barack Obama welcomes African leaders to the White House.
Welcome to the White House. This city, this House, has welcomed foreign envoys and leaders for more than 2 centuries. But never before have we hosted a dinner at the White House like this, with so many presidents, so many prime ministers all at once. So we are grateful for all the leaders who are in attendance. We are grateful to the spouses. I think the men will agree that the women outshine us tonight in the beautiful colors of Africa. Tonight we are making history, and it's an honor to have all of you here. You know, I stand before you as the President of the United States and a proud American. I also stand before you as the son of a man from Africa. The blood of Africa runs through our family, and so for us, the bonds between our countries, our continents, are deeply personal. We're grateful for the ties of family. Of all the incredible moments of our trips to Africa, one of the most memorable was being able to bring Michelle and later our little girls to my father's hometown in Kenya, where we were embraced by so many relatives. We've walked the steps of a painful past in Ghana, at Cape Coast Castle, in Senegal, at Gorée Island, standing with our daughters in those doors of no return through which so many Africans passed in chains. We'll never forget bringing our daughters to Robben Island, to the cell from which Madiba showed the unconquerable strength and dignity of an African heart. We've been inspired by Africans, ordinary Africans doing extraordinary things. Farmers boosting their yields, health workers saving lives from HIV/AIDS, advocates standing up for justice and the rule of law, courageous women asserting their rights, entrepreneurs creating jobs, African peacekeepers risking their lives to save the innocent. And both of us stand in awe of the extraordinary young Africans that we've met, not only across Africa, but most recently here in Washington, just last week when we hosted our Mandela Washington Fellows from many of your countries. And those young people show the world that Africa has the talent and the drive to forge a new future. These are the tides of history and the ties of family that bring us together this week. These are the citizens who look to us to build a future worthy of their dreams, especially those who dream of giving their children a future without war or injustice, without poverty or disease. They are in our prayers tonight. And also with us are the words of a song, New Africa, that have inspired so many across the continent and that Michelle and I first heard last year in Senegal. Come together, New Africa. Work together. Keep on working for Africa. And so I propose a toast to the new Africa, the Africa that is rising and so full of promise, and to our shared task to keep on working for the peace and prosperity and justice that all our people seek and that all our people so richly deserve. Cheers. Enjoy your dinner, everybody.
I'm Meryl Streep, and New York is my home. There's no place like it in the world. One of my favorite places is the Finger Lakes. Seneca Falls is the birthplace of the idea that women should be regarded as full citizens and allowed to vote. You can enjoy nature along beautiful trails or relax at our world-famous wineries. Come discover your favorite part of New York. Plan your summer vacation at iloveny.com. There's something for everyone.
Many New Yorkers don't have access to a vehicle, so schlepping an old TV or computer to be recycled isn't easy. That's why the Department of Sanitation partnered with Electronic Recyclers International to create eCycle NYC. This free and convenient electronics recycling program is for residential buildings over 10 units. Learn more at nyc.gov/ecycle.
Michelle Obama has called on men to be more vigilant in the struggle to promote women's rights. The U.S. First Lady has been speaking to a group of young Africans taking part in the Mandela Washington Fellows Leadership Program.
Good morning. So you all truly represent the talent, the energy, and the diversity that is Africa's lifeblood. And it is an honor to host you here in the United States. We're so proud. Now, from what I've heard, you all have been making good use of this time here. You've been learning new skills, questioning old assumptions, and having some frank conversations with experts and with each other about the challenges and opportunities in your countries. And I want to use our time together today to continue that dialogue. Today, I want us to talk, and I mean really talk. I want to speak as openly and honestly as possible about the issues we care about and what it means to be a leader, not just in Africa, but in the world today. Now, one of the issues that I care deeply about is, as John alluded to, girls' education. And across the globe, the statistics on this issue are heartbreaking. Right now, 62 million girls worldwide are not in school, including nearly 30 million girls in sub-Saharan Africa. And as we saw in Pakistan, where Malala Yousafzai was shot in the head by Taliban gunmen, and in Nigeria, where more than 200 girls were kidnapped from their school dormitory by Boko Haram terrorists. Even when girls do attend school, they often do so at great risk. And as my husband said earlier this week, we know that when girls aren't educated, that doesn't just limit their prospects, leaving them more vulnerable to poverty, violence, and disease. It limits the prospects of their families and their countries as well. Now, in recent years, there's been a lot of talk about how to address this issue and how we need more schools and teachers, more money for toilets and uniforms, transportation, school fees. And of course, all of these issues are critically important. And I could give a perfectly fine speech today about increasing investments in girls' education around the world. But I said I wanted to be honest. And if I do that, we all know that the problem here isn't only about resources. It's also about attitudes and beliefs. It's about whether fathers and mothers think their daughters are as worthy of an education as their sons. It's about whether societies cling to outdated laws and traditions that oppress and exclude women, or whether they view women as full citizens entitled to fundamental rights. So the truth is, I don't think it's really productive to talk about issues like girls' education unless we're willing to have a much bigger, bolder conversation about how women are viewed and treated in the world today.
I'm Ed Burns, and New York is my home. There's no place like it in the world. My favorite activity is fishing. We have the best trout fly fishing east of the Rockies, 5 of the country's top bass lakes, and one of the world's top 10 fishing destinations off Montauk. And now, with reduced freshwater license fees and no saltwater fees, New York's world-class fishing is even
Bloomberg
better.
Philanthropies and the
Find out
U.S.
more
Department of
at
Commerce are
iloveny.com.
co-hosting the first ever U.S.-Africa Business Forum. Africa has enormous economic potential.
Africa is today's biggest market opportunity in the global economy. And if you think I'm kidding, just look at the numbers. Africa is expected to reach a 5% overall growth rate in 2015. It boasts 6 of the world's 10 fastest growing economies. It registered more than 400,000 new companies in the last year alone, and its middle class, or consumer class, is the fastest growing in the world. The fact is, Africa is no longer emerging. It is here now. As Africa begins a new stage in its journey, we in America want to walk by its side. But we also realize that we have some catching up to do. Foreign investment in Africa has reached record highs, but that the United States is being driven more by its own domestic policies, and we are letting Europe and China go faster than the U.S. And while our exports to the continent are at a record high, it's also true that only 2% of our total exports go to Africa. And that means that we're missing out on a major opportunity to create jobs here at home. In America, there is a disconnect between the reality of the African market and the perception of the African market. And this conference is aimed at fixing that. Countries and companies that ignore the African market do so at their own peril, and that will become increasingly true with each passing year. The business that I own, Bloomberg LP, has offices in 6 countries in Africa, 8 cities, employing more than 160 people, including more than 120 full-time and freelance journalists, and we are growing there. In fact, the first business trip that I took after leaving office in January was to South Africa to help expand our offices both in Cape Town and Joburg. While I was there, we also launched a $10 million training program to increase financial reporting on the continent and help make African markets more transparent. We work closely with African financial institutions, private companies, and central bankers to help them maximize efficiency, mitigate risk, and increase capital flows. And that not only helps the local financial markets, it also helps attract more foreign investment.
Africa is no longer a sleeping giant, but is awake and open for business. These words from a rising South African leader at last week's Young African Leaders Summit could be no more accurate. Africa might well be the biggest market opportunity in the global economy today, and U.S. companies cannot afford to miss out. Africa's economic ascent is still just beginning. The U.S.-Africa Business Forum will serve as a reminder that both Africa and America are awake and open for business. And by investing in our partnership, we will invest in prosperity on either side of the Atlantic.
Many New Yorkers don't have access to a vehicle, so schlepping an old TV or computer to be recycled isn't easy. That's why the Department of Sanitation partnered with Electronic Recyclers International to create eCycle NYC. This free and convenient electronics recycling program is for residential buildings over 10 units. Learn more at nyc.gov/ecycle.
Back to school. It's easy to enroll in a New York City public school. Register today in just a few easy steps. Are you new to New York City? Or are you looking to register your child for the first time in public school? Call 311 to find your own school, or go to the website and use the school search tool. Programs for pre-K in New York City public schools. These are free pre-kindergarten programs that are approved by the New York City Department of Education, but which are provided by community organizations. They have a variety of programs, some half-day and some full-day. For students with disabilities may apply to all pre-K programs according to standard pre-K admissions. Some students may require additional supports. Please read about pre-K admissions for students who require special education services.
All across our city, great teachers are providing classes of 4-year-olds with a free, full-day, high-quality pre-K education. Children are learning how to share, how to take turns, and how to follow directions. It's all an important part of preparing them for a lifetime of learning. Parents can apply for a New York City pre-K seat in every neighborhood. For our children and families, opportunity starts now. All across our city, great teachers are providing classes of 4-year-olds with a free, full-day, high-quality pre-K education. Children are learning how to share, how to take turns, and how to follow directions. It's all an important part of preparing them for a lifetime of learning. Parents can apply for a New York City pre-K seat in every neighborhood. For our children and families, opportunity starts now.
Dr. John Holdren explains in less than 3 minutes how the growing number of intense wildfires are linked in part to climate change.
While no single wildfire can be said to have been caused by climate change has been making the fire season in the United States longer and, on average, more intense. I'm John Holdren, President Obama's science advisor, here to talk about climate change and wildfires, a topic that's on the mind of many who are grappling with tragic losses from the recent spate of uncontrolled fires in the northwestern United States and Canada. The influence of climate change on the wildfire regime comes not just from the higher summer temperatures and reduced summer soil moisture that go with global warming. Climate change is also bringing us more dead trees, kindling in effect, killed by a combination of heat stress, water stress, and attacks by pests and pathogens that multiply faster in a warmer world. The National Climate Assessment released in May tells us, consistent with earlier studies, that longer, hotter, drier summers are projected to continue to increase the frequency and the intensity of large wildfires in the United States. In the western United States, the average annual area burned by large wildfires has increased several-fold in recent decades. The evidence is strong that climate change is responsible, at least in part, for this increase. And the West is not the only U.S. region affected by wildfire. Today, the southeastern United States leads the nation in number of wildfires, averaging 45,000 fires per year, and this number continues to increase. And nationwide, the 8 worst years on record in terms of area burned have all occurred since the year 2000. Wildfires, of course, are dangerous to human life and health, costly in terms of property loss, and generally harmful to ecosystems. They destroy valuable timber and wildlife, as well as homes and other built infrastructure. They promote soil erosion. They increase the risk from floods and landslides. And the damage can extend far beyond the location of the fire itself, through the impact of the smoke plume on air quality far downwind, and the destruction of downstream fisheries choked with silt eroded from slopes denuded by fire. In short, wildfires accentuated by climate change are putting communities, lives, health, jobs, and valuable natural resources at risk. I encourage you to learn more about the science of this issue by visiting whitehouse.gov/climate change.
I'm Michael Strahan, and I love New York. There's no place like it in the world. My favorite thing is the excitement of the outdoors, like rock climbing in the Catskills, rafting in the Adirondacks, surfing on Long Island, or getting your heart racing at Watkins Glen International. Come discover your favorite part of New York. Plan your summer vacation at iloveny.com. There's something for everyone.
All across our city, great teachers are providing classes of 4-year-olds with a free, full-day, high-quality pre-K education. Children are learning how to share, how to take turns, and how to follow directions. It's all an important part of preparing them for a lifetime of learning. Parents can apply for a New York City pre-K seat in every neighborhood. For our children and families, opportunity starts now.
City as Canvas, running till September 21st at the Museum of the City of New York. The first-time exhibition of the works from the expansive street art collection of Martin Wong. Martin Wong, an East Village artist and collector of graffiti art, amazed a treasure trove of hundreds of works of paper and canvas, in aerosol, ink, and other mediums. The artists, including Keith Haring, Lee Quinones, Lady Pink, and Futura 2000, were seminal figures in an artistic movement that spawned a worldwide phenomenon, altering music, fashion, and popular visual culture. The exhibition, City as Canvas, graffiti art from the Martin Wong collection, includes over 150 works on canvas and other media, along with the photographs of graffiti writing long erased from subways and buildings. Wong, who died of AIDS in 1999, donated his collection to the City Museum in 1994. The Museum of the City of New York is located at 1220 Fifth Avenue, and they are open daily from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m.
The Martin Wong collection was donated to the Museum of the City of New York in 1994. What we see in this collection is Martin's true and profound belief in the work of these artists, in the belief that what they were creating had value.
Martin Wong was one of the artists that was part of our group in the East Village in the early 80s, in the gallery scene, the alternative spaces down in the East Village.
When I started to kind of know him as an artist, and I got to know a lot about his own work, that's when, okay, I realized he's one of us.
He was very supportive of our culture, to see it all happen and be where it is now, it's kind of unreal. I'd never thought it would come out like that, like my work would be in a museum in Martin's collection. If he didn't grab those books, no one would ever see them, and that would be a real loss.
Today we have some real perspective to look back on the 20-odd years of graffiti in New York City and when the work that's in this gallery was created with some perspective. We can see how in the intervening years the movement has really affected a broader culture.
It's great to see this in the light of the day, in the light of a museum environment in the city of New York. It's a great feeling of arrival.
Most of us have exhibited extensively in Europe and in Asia, but for the most part, we've been perhaps marginalized in terms of whatever people perceive as being, quote unquote, high art.
I think the G word, the graffiti word, will always have that sort of effect on people. They'll just see the bad. But two new words, street art, it kind of expands your thought a bit.
This isn't something that is taught in school by an institution. This is just a lot of dedicated people applying themselves and doing the best that they can.
And that's what art movements need, because they always need a rejuvenation, within.
I'm Ed Burns, and New York is my home. There's no place like it in the world. My favorite activity is fishing. We have the best trout fly fishing east of the Rockies, 5 of the country's top bass lakes, and one of the world's top 10 fishing destinations off Montauk. And now, with reduced freshwater license fees and no saltwater fees, New York's world-class fishing is even better. Find out more at iloveny.com.
The City of New York is bidding to host the Democratic National Convention in 2016, highlighting the city's belief that the road to the White House goes through the 5 boroughs.
Ever since the colonists arrived in 1624, New York has been continuously shaped by the waves of immigrants drawn here by the promise of hope and liberty. Every newcomer arrived with a cultural suitcase that contributed to the sounds, tastes, and textures of New York. But it is their dreams which built the city, a city like no other. New York touches not only the heavens with its mythic skyline, its influence radiates to every corner of the globe. Every street corner, it seems, is familiar through documentary, movie, and song. New York's straightforward grid system makes it an easy city to explore by foot, taxi, or on its subway, which, just like the city, never sleeps. In Manhattan's Midtown, you'll find many of the Big Apple's most iconic symbols. The Art Deco designed Empire State Building is one of the most impressive and endearing skyscrapers ever created. The skyline may have grown up around it, but the view from the 102nd floor is as breathtaking today as it was when it first opened in 1931. New York has always been a place where, when the going got tough, the tough got going. The Rockefeller Center, a visionary city within a city, rose during the darkest days of the Great Depression. Today, it's still a place of creativity, inspiration, and even more incredible views of the city. Closer to Earth is Grand Central Terminal. Step into the main concourse and feel the echo of every tearful farewell and joyous greeting throughout the station's history. New York has always been the gateway to the land of the free, but it is also the city of the spree, the shopping spree. The city is shopaholic heaven, and Fifth Avenue, with its eye-popping window displays, is the high temple of the retail world. Times Square, one of the most visited tourist attractions on the planet. Stand here on the corner of Broadway and 7th Avenue, and you stand at the crossroads of the world. It's also the place to snap up a half-price ticket to a Broadway show. New York has been blessed with generous civic spaces. But there is no greater chill-out space in the Big Apple than Central Park, a beautiful 850-acre network of meadows and lakes. This is the place where New Yorkers come to rest, romance, and express themselves. Over the decades, many New Yorkers made it big, and much of that fabulous wealth was reinvested into collecting some of the greatest artworks on the planet. Nowadays, much of this art is available for everyone to enjoy. A walk through the Metropolitan Museum of Art is a walk through 5,000 years of humankind's greatest creative moments. The Frank Lloyd Wright-designed Guggenheim is a different kind of walk, one which spirals ever upward through a dizzying collection of 20th and 21st century masterpieces. Newcomers to New York spend much of their time looking skyward, but since the 2001 attacks on the World Trade Center, a new attraction gives locals and visitors a chance to pause and bow their heads. The Reflecting Absence Memorial and Museum honors the 3,000 people who lost their lives on that darkest of September days. New York resonates with the sounds of over 800 language groups, and nothing epitomizes this diversity like the city's neighborhoods. Little Italy packs all the tastes and flavors of Italy into just a couple of streets, while Soho attracts cool cats and well-heeled bohemians from all over the world. A few streets away, Greenwich Village proudly retains the cafes and bars where creative residents like Bob Dylan first performed before becoming American icons. And then there are the boroughs. Walk across the Brooklyn Bridge to the melting pot of Brooklyn, with its own distinctive neighborhoods, museums, open spaces, and who could forget Coney Island? So welcome to New York City, the Big Apple. We've only just given you a bite-sized taste of what this incredible city has to offer. But if you've got an appetite for the very best things that life has to offer, this is the destination for you. there's enough to feast on here for a lifetime.
Thank you for watching Meetings with Our Community. We hope that you have enjoyed our show, and we hope to see you next week.